Everybody needs to be accountable for what you did. You did something wrong, you took a human life, and had no remorse. That's dangerous. You know what I mean? Because everybody deserves life.
Yep. Yep. You know, I've spent almost all my waking moments with this family since Tuesday. And what I know is they collectively, children, parents, they collectively. No, well, we can still help out. We can still help out. Who's oh no, I'm not gonna go that far. They want to see change, and that sounds like a really hopeful, sort of fantastical, sort of notion. But they want to see change, meaning that no one else who is suffering from a mental health crisis should be met by ill-trained, ill-prepared, ill-equipped police officers. That means we want to see every police officer in the city of Philadelphia outfitted with less than lethal methods. We want to see them outfitted with tasers so that you don't have to wait around and call for a CIT trained officer. That didn't happen in this particular case. They didn't even call for one, but just like with Darren Lee, right? There's another man with mental health issues, documented mental health issues, who was shot by police, who had to call for a CIT trained officer to the scene, and before that officer responded, they shot him as well. Okay, that's right here in the city of Philadelphia in 2019. So that is what the family would like to see happen.
Will you file a wrongful death claim against the city and the police department?
Well, I can tell you a wrongful death occurred. Whether we'll be the ones filing the claim, that remains to be seen, quite frankly. Right now, the family made funeral arrangements on today to bury their son, their brother. That has really been the focus. To be honest, that's been the focus. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, I'll go inside and give them everything now.
You would expect a wrongful death claim to be filed at some point?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, right? A wrongful death occurred, right? And so I expect if someone commits a theft, they'll be arrested for theft. I expect that if you do a hit and run, someone will be arrested for a hit and run. So if you call someone's wrongful death, if the logic flows that there will be a wrongful death suit to follow.
What are your expectations of the investigation in terms of what it will reveal and what will happen afterwards? I'm sure you've seen other high-profile cases around the country with police-involved shootings that have been investigated. What are does that make you feel less optimistic about something happening?
No, it doesn't. Because of where we're located. We're not in Kentucky, thank God. We're in a progressive city. And I'm getting ready to find out at the same time you folks here whether that was just a bunch of rhetoric or whether there's some veracity and some truth to it. There's been a lot of campaigns waged in this town when people are running for office about being progressive and changing things and changing the mindset and changing the landscape. There's been a lot of that talk, right? And so what will happen now before your eyes and mine is that we will find out whether that was just a bunch of hype and they sold us a bill of goods, or in fact, if there's any merit and truth to it during the litigation of this particular matter. We will find out together, you and I.
Can you tell us again about the experience level of the two police officers? I think you said one of them running in for 2 years. That's correct.
No quote me on 2 years. It was less than 2 years. I know he was by Roger's definition of rookie. All right, new to the force. You might imagine that a person new to the force doesn't have a wealth of experience in every scenario. And so let me be clear. I'm not saying that to disparage that officer. Everyone has to start somewhere. But that means that perhaps you should be better trained to deal with these sorts of circumstances, especially when you have multiple calls. There should have been a supervisor listening to that saying, you know what? That sounds like something for me to respond to, as opposed to this particular unit that has a newbie officer assigned to that patrol car.
And was that the officer that said shooting?
Per my investigation, I believe it was.
You believe it was?
I believe it was. And again, if I had the benefit of names, I wouldn't have to speculate on that.
And how much experience did the other officer have?
I don't know. But I'll tell you this, not enough experience to pull back, say, you know what? This is perhaps beyond my skill set at the moment. And this is not disparaging them. But I want to be clear about that. Please don't misquote me. This is not disparaging them. But this is calling, calling the truth the truth. I know what I saw and I know what I heard. And when you see these officers and their body language, the way in which they performed in that particular moment, that wasn't a level of sophistication or professionalism I'd expect in a Class A1 city police department.
Did they tell you we're going to release the police officer's name?
No, we've been asking for that and trying to respect their process, so I wouldn't have to refer to them this way. But you will know who I'm speaking of because the officer who has tattoos on his left arm, you saw that? The tattoos on his left arm. You will hear shoot him. You'll hear it. And the reason you know he said shoot him is A, because your ears will not deceive you, and then your eyes won't either because he shot him.
Any other member ever want to say anything?
We had the meeting Tuesday night at Pastor
Yes, ma'am.
Church, and at that time, us as community leaders that were also weak when we were asking out for help, stop it. A few of us were actually beat to the ground, showing my share back as the, and I took some of the things that us support the family, trying to help with peace and recognition that was really going on. On top of that, what disturbed us equity is Commissioner, the police commissioner Outlaw actually admitted to saying that we only had one mental health officer that day when they were off. That just sounds like a bunch of nonsense. That one day they were off.
Well, let me say this to you. I don't know how accurate these numbers are, so you have to accept this in the spirit in which I mean it. But when we check, I believe the annual budget for the police department is $730 million. $730 million budget. Now I get it. You got a lot to spend it on. I understand it. But the average cost of a taser, if I were to walk into a store myself, the average cost of a taser, I believe, is $700. Between $700 and $1,400. $700 and $1,400. Okay, depending on the style, the model, etc. If you were to outfit the remaining officers who are not CIT trained with tasers, which is about approximately 2,000 officers, you would spend about anywhere between $1.5 million and $3 million making certain and putting priority. $1.5 million to $3 million would be making certain and putting priority on less lethal methods, ensuring that your officers with the training and that equipment would only implement deadly force when absolutely necessary. And the reason we know that is because you would have given them the step in between. Without the step in between, you've hamstrung your own police officers. So I hear members of the FOP, I hear John, I hear what you said, I hear that, and quite frankly, I think it was disgusting. However, one thing rings true when he says, I feel for the officers. In some respects, this family does too, because those officers didn't have to be put in that position if they had the proper equipment and the proper training. On that point, we agree.
Laws, want to say anything?
I pray things change. I pray we all one day can come together and get along. But this gotta stop. It really gotta stop. Really do.
I heard you say justice. You want justice? For your family, what does justice mean to you guys?
That's the name. I'm not my husband.
You ask for justice to be all accountable with your actions. You know what I mean? No right, no wrong, right? One like a person scared of a mouse. You ain't have no feelings of life itself. That's a dangerous person. You know what I mean? We cry, we laugh, that's feelings. You know what I mean? That's emotional feelings of life itself. When you don't have that type of situation, you're very dangerous to society and everything. And this mayor, he's a coward. Is any kind of man for the people, he would come down here and get off his ass and come down here and talk to you. You know what I mean? You know, that ain't his kid. He didn't got to bury nobody. He don't know what pain and suffering is. You know what I mean? And we the people elected him, and it's all his party, but they want to play with themselves and wake up and smell the coffee. Because life is serious. You know what I mean? It ain't about color, it's about respect. And once you take the respect, people don't have trust and respect, you have a serious situation. You know what I mean? The fuse situation, don't throw fire, gasoline on fire, you put it out. You know what I mean? And for him to be a mayor, he's less than a man. To me, I'm a man. You want to act like you a sissy, play with doll baby? That's on you. Well, come on down here and talk to the media like we is. You know what I mean? He didn't lose nobody, so he don't know damn. He don't care about no compassion. We crying. They know but a bunch of drunks and alcoholics. They label us. And that's the way it is. You know what I mean? You call the kitchen black or the kettle, whatever you want. That's a reality check. You know what I mean? So when it hit close to home to somebody else, pain ain't nothing to be played with. You got to suffer. You know what I mean? And respect is due to a cat and a dog.
Has anybody from the city reached out, apologized for this? Or
If they apologize, I should be able to fly.
is the family aware of the protest on Saturday on their block on 63rd and Locust?
So let me give you some funeral. You asked about that?
Yes. Also, is the family aware of the protest on the block on Saturday?
I'm sure they are now. That was a good point. Let me do this. November 7th, which is 2 Saturdays from now, between 9 and 11. 9 a.m. is the viewing, that goes to 11, and the service will begin at 11 a.m. And this will be at the Church of Christian Compassion. Okay, that's where they were on Tuesday evening. The Church of Christian Compassion, Saturday, November 7th, between 9 and 11 is the viewing, and the service begins at 11. Listen, my departing remarks will be this. That man is hurting. That man is hurting badly. You might pick out a name that sound like you like, you call him mayor, power. You pick out the sound like that best suits you. But here's the truth of the matter. That man is hurting deeply in a way that my very colorful imagination can't conceive. To be present, and when I say present, I'm speaking about looking with your eyes, listening with your ears, watching your son that you sired with your woman shot down, broad daylight, in front of you, his mama, and his wife. Forgive him for the name calling. Don't put more on that than you should. Don't give him more weight than you should. I expect everybody here to be professionals. Don't give him more than you should. That man is breathing deeply. Let's be glad the only thing we does is call notes.
And can you say the name for us, just so we have your name?
Her name?
No, yours.
Oh, Shaka Johnson, sir. S-H-A-K-A, Shaka Johnson.
Take the parent's name, Paul.
Yes, sir. Kathy Brandt, B-R-A-N-T. That's mom.
Happy with a seal at that.
Okay.
Okay. And the last name, B-R-A-N-T.
B-R-A-N-T. And that is Walter Wallace. He's a junior as well. Walter Wallace Jr. That's the name.
You just spelled the name of the baby.
Oh, well, listen, you know, people nowadays, they put more vowels and syllables. I can't help them with that, right? But so I pronounced it for you. That's the best I can do. Anasha Winter Matthews. Ashana Winter Matthews. But I can't tell you how to spell that. Am I saying Matthews? I'm very sorry. Ashana Winter Wallace. You got that? Ashana Winter Wallace. It's a beautiful name. But I wouldn't try
And
to
the child was born today?
on this very day.
Was it girl or boy? Girl born today.
Yesterday, her labor was induced on yesterday. Her labor was induced on yesterday, and she's 8 pounds. She's 8 pounds even when she was born. Healthy by all accounts. And there's that. You know?
And this,
Yes, mom is doing okay. There was a Zoom conference with her earlier. She's doing all right.
Could she also do 26 videos too?
No. We Zoomed with her just to check on things.
So just in total, you said in the video that you saw was like less than 2 minutes? And you said about 30
I said about that. No. If you add everything that happens after the fact, you know, but right. So leading up to the dash of the D, it's about a minute and some change, quite frankly. If you watch the entire video, including after the school, 7, 8 minutes
I just
maybe.
want to know, your weight is about 7 to 8 minutes worth of footage.
Yes, sir.
But the key part is how many minutes?
Less than 2
Less than 2 minutes is the key part.
is the key. Less than 2.
So how long were the officers on the scene? How long were they on the scene?
One officer left the scene because he assisted with scooping the body and, you know, doing an emergency transport to the nearest hospital. So he left for that reason, which was a good reason to leave the scene. And the other officer stayed on the scene and then reported to a superior when a superior did in fact arrive.
How long from the time they arrived to the time of the shooting? Like, how long was that whole operation take?
A minute and some change? A minute
They were only on the scene for a minute.
before the shots rang out? Yes, ma'am. A minute and some change. It wasn't, I wouldn't even give it a full 2 minutes.
so the video you saw this morning was from one body cam video.
2.
From both of them.
Yes, sir.
And they put the two videos together.
No, separate.
I see.
Yeah, it wasn't a compilation video.
All right.
2 separate videos, 2 separate angles. Yes. We want to thank everybody for coming. I encourage you, when you watch the video, to listen for some of the things that I told you that you hear. You know, and thank you for coming and showing some support for the family by trying to get the story out, the questions that you were able to ask. I will ask you lastly to keep them in your prayers. I know how this works. The headlines will change tomorrow, and then we won't be talking about Walter Wallace, you know, going forward. But actually keep them in your prayers. And quite frankly, to the extent it's necessary, I'd like you to keep the officers in your prayers too. Because there's trauma on both sides of this particular situation.
I have one more question, please. How would you characterize the Walter had the family had called for help before today? They called in previous days as well. And how would you, from what you know, how would you characterize the city's mental health services systems and how they respond to this family?
Oh, sure. Culture. Abysmal. Non-existent. Zero. I wish I knew French. I would say it in French. I would say it in some other languages to drive home my point. It just doesn't exist. You know, I don't think they've earmarked, if any money, nearly enough to address this issue. If you walk around these city streets right here in Memphis, you walk around here, it's mental health all up and through here. You can't go get a cup of coffee without walking by somebody in this town, without talking to themselves. Everybody is, you know what I'm saying? It's a problem in this town. Some people have issues, some cities have issues with, you know, some cities have issues with homelessness, and some cities have issues with mental health, and then some cities have the double crime, which is mental health and homelessness, because those two are intricately woven together. This city has a this city has a very vast mental health crisis. They really do. They really do. And I'm not talking about just the ones that we see out here on the streets, not properly wearing the proper clothes for the occasion, talking to themselves. Not those folks. I'm talking about undiagnosed mental health. It is rampant through this town. And officers, being first responders, are the ones that you expect to come into first touch with those people. So you've got to train your police officers. Listen, when you arrive to a scene, you have to give them different levels of experience and expose them to different things so they are prepared to deal with those scenarios when they see them. I'm not saying turn them into clinicians, right? You don't have to make them mental health experts, but you have to expose them so that their first thinking isn't
Do you know how many times the family has called for help from 911?
my answer to you, if you don't have great respect for me, is it doesn't matter. That is the answer I have. It absolutely does not matter. 1 or 1,000, it doesn't matter. Because every call, they are expecting 3 things: professionalism, experience, and to have their issue remedied by those first responders. They are not expecting murder on their city street at the hands of the people they called. Would you call a murderer to your house to help you? Of course you would. You called who you thought would help you. So how do those two conflict?
What you said to the constituents in the Black and brown communities is that adequate healthcare, mental health facilities such as ones that turn like the 302.
Right.
I've had plenty of cases where I hope my families.
I'll tell you the answer to that question right
They
now.
let them right out.
I'll tell you the answer to that
They're
question.
going to Friends Hospital and they get beds.
Here's
As long as
the
the other comes.
The young lady asked a question about the mental health and people sort of being able to get right out, and I've experienced that. Dropping somebody off, taking them in to get food, and then all of a sudden they're home before I get home.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And what I would say is there's a revamping that sort of needs to take place. There's a revamping that needs to take place. For today's purpose, right? I am not on a crusade about mental health and the like. I'm talking very specifically about the Philadelphia Police Department's response when they are patrolling our city streets and dealing with us in a collective fashion. I'm just going to say this to you. I have a hard time believing. Let me just say this to you. That if the officers responded in Manningham and Chad came outside and Chad was experiencing a crisis, I have a very difficult time believing. I will not accept it. You couldn't get me to. That if Chad came outside and was in crisis and had a knife or a box cutter, that you would immediately think to gun Chad down. I can't accept it. So what I'm saying to you is there needs to be, by this police department, additional training, and I don't want to use that word so lofty. I tend to do. It's training. Training specifically on keeping people alive. Keeping them alive. Do not cause their death at your own hand. I'm not suggesting that there aren't times when lethal force, deadly force has to be used. I'm not suggesting that. This right here, Walter Wallace, this was not one of those times, is what I am saying.
You are not in favor of filing murder charges, is that correct?
Well, it doesn't matter what I think, right?
No, I know, but.
Well, if you know that, then the question, then what are we doing, right?
All right, but I just want to be clear on what your opinion is on that.
He thought you and I were going to start arguing. And I said, not me and my friend, my British friend. I don't know.
Where are they?
No. But here's the thing, and this is, I want to wrap up now. I sincerely hope, and perhaps I am being naive in this moment, but I sincerely hope there is a expansive investigation, one that has an eye on reform, okay? But what I mean is, people have to investigate what happened here with an eye toward this can't happen again, right? And if you do that, I think that we will arrive at the right decision, whatever that may be. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Sorry, guys. I'm gonna be wrong.